Welcome and good morning again. Thanks for joining us. We are so pleased to see you all here today to learn more about the IAble accounts and learn a little bit about what's new or what's coming down the pike. I'm Brooke Lovelace. I'm the Executive Director of the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council. The DD Council is really a proud partner with the State Treasury's Office to promote these IAble accounts and provide education as to how they work. This is really our 6th year of partnering with the Treasury's Department, and our goals are to increase those that have these IAble accounts because they're really a great way for people with disabilities to obtain and maintain independence. And our DD Council is really all about helping people do that. If you're unfamiliar about the DD Council or our website, and contact information will be given at the end, but we do want our time together spent learning more about the IAble accounts and new things coming down. Just some housekeeping before we get started. We do not have an interpreter today. That was an error on our part. We do apologize for that. We didn't have anybody that specifically requested it, but there is closed captioning, and you can see that button hopefully on the bottom. Sometimes people do have to hit the more button. Please stay mute during the webinar. There will be time to answer questions at the end of the presentation. You can raise your hand and or come off mute. We will be disabling the chat feature today. So please use the question and answer feature on there to ask questions. And Victoria and Christy will be answering some of those as we go through the presentation today, and then some will be leaving to answer at the end. So I think with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I am now going to turn it over to Alicia Callanan, who's the Deputy Director Officer with the Treasury Office, and she's going to lead our presentation today. Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank you, Brooke. And yes, we love our partnership with the DDA Council, and we appreciate everything you do and helping us get the word out about IAble. So today I'm just going to kind of give a really quick overview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about what IAble is and some of those plan highlights, and just kind of go through the steps if you were going to have an account, how you would open one, what the investments are, how you contribute to that account, and then what you can use the funds for. I know there's always a ton of questions on what the expenses can be used for, and I will talk about that when we get to that slide. So it will be coming up. It's just kind of towards the end. And then last, we'll wrap up with some account tools and different ways you can manage the account for either yourself or for someone that you might be managing for. All right, so let's dive into the plan highlights. So I always like to take a moment and kind of step back and look at where IAble is. We currently have $38 million in assets, and we have 3,416 accounts. We're excited that we have that many, but we know there are so many more individuals that could benefit from IAble. And I will talk about too how some of the eligibility is expanding, so even more will be eligible to open an account in January. And then I always think it's good to kind of step back and look at the average account size. It's right around 11,000. And I'll talk more about what that means as we get going. But that's really an opportunity to show that people are using these accounts for day-to-day expenses and some long-term expenses. So one of the really big things we want you to take away from IAble is we really tried to make it user-friendly. We know not everyone's an investment professional, so we tried to make the investments as easy to understand as possible. Again, I'll dive into those in a little bit, and then make it as inexpensive, so it is an option for individuals at every level. All right, so let's take a step back and talk about what IAble is. So ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And so IAble is Iowa's plan. So IAble allows eligible individuals with disabilities and their support system to save for qualified disability-related expenses. And again, we'll talk about what those are, and I'll talk about what an eligible individual is as well. Earn tax breaks similar to 529 plans, if you're familiar with those. And really the biggest thing, break down those barriers and protect the eligibility for Medicaid, Social Security, and those other assistance programs. So let's start breaking these out. So who is eligible? So the first criteria is the age of the disability onset. The individual does not have to be this age, but the onset of their disability had to be present prior to that. It currently, and since the inception of ABLE accounts, has been age 26. So the onset of that disability had to be present prior to the age of 26. However, that is jumping to 46 on January 1st. So you'll see we have you'll see we have a QR code on here. I encourage you to scan it if you want to receive more information, plus a reminder when that eligibility is going live. We are going to try to spread the word and remind people as it is, because we know there are a lot more individuals that will be able to become eligible and get some of that financial freedom from having an ABLE account. And again, so it's currently 26, but on January 1st, that age is going to increase to 46. All right, so after the age criteria, one of these other options must be met. You don't have to meet all three, but one of the following must be met in addition to that onset age. So the individual must be eligible for SSI or SSDI, and they don't have to be taking it. They could be eligible and that person opts not to take it, but if they're eligible, that would be a way. Or maybe they aren't, but they have a diagnosis from a physician that says they have a similarly severe disability. That would never be sent to IAble. It is something they would just keep on hand, and they would need to recertify annually with their physician. Or maybe neither of those first two apply. The Social Security Administration, which we've abbreviated to SSA here, has a compassionate allowances conditions list, which is available on their website, and we have a link to it from ours as well. If you have a condition that is on that list, that could also meet the criteria for IAble. If you're still kind of questioning if you're eligible or someone you know may be eligible, I encourage you to take our eligibility quiz. The URL is right there, iable.gov/eligibility. And I'm guessing one of my partners dropped that in the chat as well. All right, so what's really the big point of ABLE and why do you want to save with it? So for most people, it's to maintain those benefits. So supplemental security income, better known as SSI, does have that $2,000 asset limit. With IAble, you can save above that $2,000. So the first $100,000 you have in an IAble account is disregarded from SSI eligibility. Anything over 100,000 would be treated as a resource. So for an example, if you had, let's say $100,000 in your ABLE account, just even, and then $2,000 in your checking account, you would only look at having $2,000 as a resource, assuming you don't have any other resources, as a resource in the eyes of the Social Security Administration. We are required to report account balances monthly to the SSA, so you don't have to do that. We just automatically do it. And if it is something you're interested in, you can have your monthly benefit payments from the SSI direct deposited straight into your IAble account. So we talk about SSI a lot, but that's not the only benefit that IAble helps. So any amount saved in IAble is disregarded from eligibility for all of these assistance programs. So really any federal means tested benefit programs. So for example, housing and urban development, supplemental nutrition assistant programs, the FAFSA, if you're going to school, or then Medicaid, and any amount saved in an IAble account is disregarded for these. That 100,000 is only for SSI. You can save above that 100,000 and still maintain your eligibility for Medicaid when it's looking at the resource limits. All right, then I'm guessing one of the main questions I always get is what about Medicaid recapture? So I did want to stop and kind of talk about that. First, always read our plan disclosure booklet if you have questions. It goes into a lot more detail than I'm going to go into here. But currently under Iowa law, Medicaid cannot recapture money in an IAble account following the death of an account owner unless it's required by federal law. So it's very specific when Medicaid can, and it's not in the majority of instances. We do outline this on our website a little more in depth. And again, that plan disclosure booklet has a lot of information. I typically, when I'm out talking to people, I hear, oh, I was told that Medicaid can. And I try to open up that conversation and say, how long ago were you told that? Because the law did change, I believe, don't 100% quote me, but I believe it was in 2001. We got the Iowa law changed. So it used to be in all instances Medicaid can recapture, and now it's only in these limited certain instances where it's required by federal law. All right, so now that we've talked about the benefits, let's shift into opening an account. So this will kind of go into more who can open the account. So if the eligible individual is under the age of 18, a parent or an individual with financial authority can open an account on behalf of that eligible person. There's no paperwork required. You can go online and fill out the information. Now let's shift and say if the individual is over the age of 18. So if that person has the legal capacity to manage their own finances, they can open their own account, similar to how I can go open a bank account. They could also choose to grant someone authority to act on that account with them or open an account on their behalf. I like to use this example of when I first went to college. My mom helped me open my account, and then I wanted her to be able to help manage my account with me, my checking account. So I put her on there to manage it with me. So it's very similar to how just a normal bank account works. Now, let's say the individual does not have the legal capacity, so they don't have the ability to manage their own finances. Then we have someone who, which we call as an authorized individual, they can open that account and they can manage it on their behalf. So let's talk about who an authorized individual is. So the authorized individual is required to certify under penalties of perjury that there is no other person that has a higher priority in this list I'm going to talk about that's willing or able to act as an authorized individual, and that they'll notify IAble if their authority expires or is removed. So that's just a lot of legal jargon, but basically to say that they are the right person to open this account and that they're certifying they are in that list. So top down, power of attorney is the highest, and that could be a person or an entity managing it. Conservator, and then it goes down to spouse, parent, sibling, grandparent, and then the SSA appointed rep payee would be at the bottom of that list. Now, what's really important here is that it says willing or able. A lot of times I like to use the example of a parent that might be aging and they are willing, but they're just not able. So that is when a sibling could step in and manage the account on their behalf. A lot of times I'll get asked if the parent and sibling can manage it together. They cannot. You have to be at the same level in this priority. However, you could have two at the same level. So you could have two parents managing it. Another question I typically get asked a lot is, I'm a guardian. Can I open this account? In Iowa, you can only if the guardian the guardian paperwork says you have the ability to manage finances or an IAble account on behalf of that individual. Otherwise, you do need to be a conservator. All right, so I mentioned entity here a couple times. Let's talk into that. So an entity is really just any agency. It can be public, nonprofit, or a government agency that works with individuals with disabilities. So what they can do is they can serve as that authorized individual on behalf of an account owner. A lot of times we will have individuals, they might not have somewhat family or a conservator that falls in that line. But as the entity, they have maybe power of attorney, or they might be the SSA, representative payee. So if an entity wants to open an account, it's pretty simple. They need to make an online dashboard, which will help them manage all those accounts in one spot. And then one really important thing is they want to make sure they have one single organizational email. You don't want to have it be one person's email. For instance, if I had it be Alicia instead of IAble at Treasurer's office, if I left, those accounts might get stuck with no one being able to access them. Where if it was a shared single organizational email that can live on throughout difference of personnel changes. And then also to initially set these up, you do have to have who can sign on the behalf of the account. So you'll create a signatory. We have a form on our website. If your organization is looking at doing this, I encourage you to reach out. We will do one-on-one calls with you to sit down and really help you go through it and to plan out what you need to do to get the accounts open. All right. Next, let's dive into the investments. So we have 7 different investment options, and then we have one checking account option. So the 7 investment options I mentioned, we call asset allocation options because those are ones that are invested more in the markets. You'll see we have some that are pretty aggressive, and then we'll have some that are more conservative, even a money market option. That's really to help people decide what type of reward potential or risk potential they want to take. So you might have someone who's saving for a long-term expense and they're like, I'm willing to take a little bit of risk. I want to put a down payment on my first house. I'm willing to put a little bit of risk because I know I'm not going to do this for 15 years. So they might go 50% in the aggressive and like 50% in the moderately aggressive. Or you might have someone that says, no, this is just my day-to-day checking account. I'm okay with a little bit, like a savings option. So I'm going to put 40% in the money market because I'm not comfortable with taking the risk. And then I'm going to keep the other in this checking account so I can just use it for my day-to-day expenses. So it's very flexible to meet the needs of whoever the investor is. So some questions to ask yourself as you're trying to decide which one of those asset allocation options or the checking account option is really to take a look and say, what is my savings goal? Are you looking to save for more long-term? Are you looking for short-term? It might make a difference on where you want to put it. Also, when will you need your money? Do you want to be able to go to an ATM and withdraw the money or just to write a check or use your debit card? Or is it something you're okay waiting a couple days for it to come out of that asset allocation money into your either another outside of IAble bank account or a check to be mailed? And then really that overall question, what is my risk tolerance? Am I willing to take those risks to go a little more aggressive, or do I feel more comfortable, or am I maybe in the middle? And you don't have to have this answer today. If you go to our website, we have a lot of tools that can kind of help lay out the scenarios and walk you through where you might fall. We know a lot of people get stopped at the investment option page when they're opening an account. So we really recommend looking through them and making sure you know which one you want before you start the process. So then let's talk about the fees. There are some fees, as with a lot of other accounts, to have an account. So all accounts, does not matter if they're an asset allocation option or the checking account option, they all have a annual account maintenance fee that we bill quarterly, and that is $7.75 when you're enrolled in e-delivery. And we'll just automatically take that out of the account. If you aren't enrolled in e-delivery, it is $14 per quarter. So if you're getting paper statements, you can change that at any time and enroll in e-delivery. Then if you have one of those asset allocation options, there are some additional fees. It depends on which one it is. And those can range from 0.30% to 0.36%. And that's annually. So the best example is if I have $1,000 invested and it's a 0.30, that's $1.30 per year. So if you're familiar with investments, which I know a lot of us aren't, but if you are familiar with them, that is a really inexpensive way to get these professionally managed investments. And then if you do have the checking account option, there isn't a monthly service charge if that account has a balance of $250 or more, or if you're enrolled in e-delivery with Fifth Third Bank, who manages that checking account. Otherwise, it's $2 per month. So one thing to note, if you want those e-delivery discounts in your cart and you have the checking account option, you do need to sign up for e-delivery through IAble. And then you would also need to do it through Fifth Third Bank. You can do it in the app. They have an app that's really nice and slick to manage your account, or you can do it online, or you can also call them. All right, so now let's get to the fun part about funding the accounts and spending some of the money. So contribution sources. So funds can come into the account from a variety of ways. Perhaps the account owner is working. They can put funds directly in the account themselves, or maybe they are receiving funds from someone and then they want to put it in there. That is a complete option to do. A support system, friends, family, neighbors, they can also contribute to the account on behalf of an account owner. If you have a special needs trust set up for maybe some of those long-term expenses, you can transfer funds into the IAble account. We see people doing this at some points. They'll transfer it from the special needs trust. They'll save that, the bulk of it, but then transfer like their day-to-day expenses into their checking account to use for whatever they may need. And then the 529 rollover, if you perhaps started saving for a child in a 529 plan, such as I Save 529, and then perhaps their path changed. We do find individuals rolling over from that 529 plan into the IAble account. Also, every IAble account does have a unique, what we call UGift code. And that is just a link you can send friends and family so they can directly contribute to the account and they don't have to go through the account owner. You also don't have to then give out your account number to other individuals. They have a secure way to do direct contributions. It could be for holidays, birthdays, or just because someone wants to give you a little bit of money. All right, so there are some different rules around IAble accounts, and these are set at the national level for all ABLE plans. It's not just in Iowa. So there is a $19,000 per year contribution limit. So you can only contribute in most instances up to $19,000 per year, and that does run calendar year. So you could put 19 in December, and then put another 19 in January. You don't have to max that out, but it is there if you want to. I do get a lot of times people say, can I put 19 in, take 2 out and put 2 back in? You can't. It's however much you contribute, no matter how you're spending it. And then the nice thing is though, each contribution can be as little as $1. So you don't have to do those big chunks. You can be putting in smaller amounts as you get them throughout the year. And then I just always like to remind that up to 100,000 can be saved in an IAble account without jeopardizing those SSI benefits. And if any amount of saving is disregarded from Medicaid and those other assistance programs we talked about. So I said most instances it's 19,000. There is an option to contribute more. So if the account owner is earning income, so if they have a job, they can contribute around $15,000 more. They do want to reach out to the plan because we need a form filled out so we can lift that cap from 19,000. Previously, this was set to expire at the end of this year. Congress changed it. It is now permanent. So this extra amount for individuals to work will maintain on the accounts moving forward. If able to work is something that you're interested in or you want to learn more about, I really encourage you to give us a call at that number below. We can talk you through all the different scenarios and how those may work. All right, we know most people aren't saving with these accounts because of the tax benefits, but they're kind of nice as well. So the main one is that the assets grow deferred from federal and state income taxes. So what that really means is you don't pay taxes on the funds while they're in the account. They go into the account post-tax, so you would, after taxes were taken out of your paycheck, then they can go into the account, and any earnings while they're in there, you don't pay taxes on. And then if you withdraw the funds to pay for qualified expenses, which I'll talk about more in a minute, there are no federal taxes on any of those qualified expenses. And then in Iowa, all withdrawals are free from Iowa income taxes. So you don't have to pay taxes on what was earned in that account while it was in there. And in Iowa, there is also a state tax deduction for Iowa taxpayers that make contributions. So let's talk through what that one is. So this year it's currently $5,800. If you're familiar with the 529 plan, it mirrors. They're the same tax deduction. So this scenario we drew out was, let's say the account owner is contributing $3,000, they can deduct that $3,000. A friend is doing $1,500, they can deduct their $1,500. Grandma, similar thing. But then mom contributes $10,000 to round it out to that 19. She can only take that tax deduction of $5,800. So a few times I get a couple questions. What if I'm working and I can save above that 19? Can I do an income tax deduction more? You can, but you can only deduct that $5,800. You can't do the full contribution if you were maxing it out. And then another one is, so if my husband and I both contribute, so parent A and parent B, yes, you can each take that $5,800. It's very much mirrors how the 5291 works in Iowa. So now let's talk about the fun part of spending the money. I am first just going to say I can't give tax or legal advice. Brooks heard me say this a lot throughout our partnership, but I can give scenarios of times when something could be considered a qualified disability expense. So really, this was written extremely broad, and it was intentional because we know no person and no one disability are the same. Everyone has different needs for what might help them or what they might need to live their own financially independent life. So a qualified disability expense is really any expense that is related to your disability and is intended to help maintain or improve health, independence, or quality of life. So for example, rent is something that could be considered an expense. The one thing with rent is it does have to be taken out in the same month it's paid. So let's say my rent is due August 1st. I can't take it out July 30th to pay it August 1st. I either have to pay it in July or just pay it a little early or write the check on August 1st. So that one is the only one that has that stipulation. The rest of them don't have that. But these are just some very limited examples. It's really anything that can improve your quality of life. So food that improves quality of life. It could be education. It could be assistive technology. It could be tires for your car. Really anything that's helping you maintain your independence and improve your quality of life. All right, so now let's talk about some of the tools that are available to us with IAble. So online management, I strongly recommend if you're able to manage the account online. It makes it really easy to check how much you have, to make withdrawals, see what you've done. If you want to transact on the account or switch between investment options, you can do that up to twice per year. It gives you all of those options. Plus, that makes it really easy if you're getting that e-delivery statement, which again, you can sign up for that online, or if you prefer, you could call us to do that. All right, then we have a couple, I would say, lesser known tools that most individuals don't know. So I wanted to take some time to highlight them. So we have what we call systematic withdrawals. And this is where you can just set it up to make a withdrawal on a regular basis. The easiest example of this, I'm going to go back to that rent scenario I did. I know my rent always due on the 5th of the month. I have every month on the 1st, my rent getting sent straight to my landlord. So I don't have to think about it. It's just automatically going. It's very much like how I have bill pay with almost all of my bills. I just have them automatically set to be paid out of my personal checking. We also have this thing called systematic exchanges. So with IAble and all ABLE plans, they're based off 529 plans, which is a very big legislative thing, but they're based off of them. So they can only have their investment options changed twice per calendar year. We know that's not realistic for everyone. So what you could do is set up a systematic exchange that might automatically move funds from one option to another type at a set point. So let's say every quarter, I want $1,000 in my checking account. I have it moved from the aggressive option because I'm willing to take some risk. And so every quarter I have 1,000 moved to my checking account option just automatically. And that's what I use to pay my bills for that 3 months. That could be a reason. It doesn't have to be a quarter. It can be whatever time frame you choose to set up. All right, then we have a couple more tools available on our site. So IAble and S&T, a special needs trust. I get a lot of questions on what the difference between these are. I am not a special needs trust expert by any means, but we worked with some experts to create a tool that has that general comparison between them and the different types of these trusts and why they might work together or why you might want one or the other. If you're looking to open an account, I strongly encourage you to download our new account owner checklist. It will tell you everything you need so you can have it all ready when you sit down to do it. It can be about a 10-minute process to get the account open. And then we also have a withdrawal log. This is not required and you do not have to submit it to IAble, but it gives you an option how to track your withdrawals in case if you're ever audited by the IRS or the Department of Revenue. You can show I had this withdrawal, this is why I took it, and it's just an easy, handy thing to keep track of, kind of like a checkbook register. All right, I wanted to save lots of time for questions, so I'm just going to recap and then we'll start diving into those ones that haven't been answered in the chat already. But IAble allows you to save above those income limits for SSI and Medicaid. Family, friends, anyone can really be involved in that saving. I didn't stress this as much earlier, but there is not documentation required to open an account. So you do not need to send us the power of attorney form, the conservator paperwork. We don't need any of that. You can just sign up online and or do it by paper. You can choose from a variety of investment options, and that does include that checking account option. The minimum contribution is only that $1. And then you do get that state tax deduction for any taxpayer that's making contributions. All right, so we'll stop here for questions. And there is all of our contact information. It is sometimes just nice, I know, snap that picture so you can see it later. Also, before I completely open it, I will throw out there that we will have the recording of this webinar available online, and we'll send it out to those that registered as well. Any questions?
And you can feel free to unmute and ask your questions live.
Hello, my name's Tim Ingold. I'm not really Susan, that's my wife. She's working today, but is there, uh, here's our scenario. My son, he's 31, and I recently took out a IAble account, and he is on SSI, and I am recently or going forward going to Social Security check, and he'll switch over, is what I've been told, from Social Security to his portion, a child's portion of my Social Security. So the question I got is what transitioning things, particularly in the housing and things like that, have to be done differently. He's living with us. We have not placed him in a group home yet. So I don't know. I know that's a very broad question, and if you want to contact me, email, you can do that too.
Yeah, so I can only speak from the IAble side. I won't pretend to be a SSI or Social Security expert, but from IAble, there wouldn't be really anything different you have to do. You can still contribute the same way. If you want to start paying for things out of the IAble plan, it would just be doing those withdrawals that I went over previously. If it was something like housing, you wanted it done automatically, you could set it up to do that as well. I hope that answered somewhat of the question.
I think that gives me, I'm just going to, is that, who do I call if I've got these kind of questions? Do I call SSI or should I call Iowa DHS Enterprise? Because
So
I, it's,
I'm more just that expert on IAble, but I'm guessing SSI should hopefully be able to help you talk through the change in this scenario. They should be familiar with it.
yeah. And we were coached early on by the University of Iowa. They had an advocate for special needs families and told us all these kinds of things to try to do. And some of it we get uh, from support groups we had in the Quad Cities. But I just wondered if there's anything existing like that today for older children, particularly.
Not that I'm aware of, but I'm going to be very honest because I'm not aware of it does not mean it doesn't exist. I learn every day something new that I'm not aware of. So I'm sure there's probably something out there. I just don't know that we're the best. HHS might be one that would know where those resources are though. Do we have any other questions?
Yes. Can I ask a question, Karen?
Yeah.
Here? Yeah. But so my sister is living in Iowa, but I live in Texas. And I asked the question, I typed it in and I wasn't quite sure if I was understanding. I have to travel to see her. And my question was more of, can she pay for an airline ticket for me to come and check on her? I'm her guardian. And she just got moved into a new living situation and I really need to get there and I need to get things in order for her.
Yeah, so I cannot answer specific, but I can answer generally. And so I'm
Yes.
going to just not speak specific to your situation, but generally, I have multiple times heard of individuals who are traveling and they perhaps need a support system it's not a system, a person. We aren't systems. They need a person to come with them to a system so they can pay for that person's travel if it's helping them improve their quality of life while they're doing things.
So how do I approach the payee of the entity, the group home she's in, and say, hey, I need X amount of dollars for an airline ticket to come in and take care of her and make sure everything's okay?
That would have to be between you and whoever's managing that ABLE account. And ABLE, you can have a withdrawal sent to anyone. It does not have to be just the account owner who it can be sent to. It can be sent to any third party. But if I don't know who's managing her account, if it's the payee, they would have to. If you're managing it as her sister, then it would be
Well, we had
manage
to
it
let,
yourself.
we had to let the entity, and I can't be on it. The entity can only control it unless I took it over, but then that would really be a hardship on them trying to get funds and all. It's just, it's all new to us. I had to fight for 2 months to get her IAble because the entity was screwing around and not getting the job done. So I'm just trying to figure out who do I need to get to talk to the payee to let her know, hey, you need to give her the funds so she can fly in and take care of things for her sister.
I mean, that would be definitely with them. I mean, you can send them the recording of this call and say what different qualified disability expenses are. It's really anything that improves the account owner. So in this instance, your sister's quality.
Okay. Okay, so me coming in, making sure everything's in order and taking care of her is a quality of life, and so that qualifies for this.
So I honestly, I
Yeah.
am not an attorney, so I can't say, I mean, but
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I'm doing everything right, and I'm trying to figure out how to word it, who to tell, so that they're not saying, "Oh, no, 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 no" to me. And it's like, this is a quality of life issue.
yes, I mean, anything that improves her quality of life,
Okay.
or helping her maintain that independence.
Okay. I will give that a try. Thanks.
Yeah,
I have a question.
yeah,
What happens if the person dies to the money
yeah.
that's in the ABLE account?
That's a great question. We get asked that a lot. I should probably get a slide in here at some point for that. So after the death of an account owner, all of their qualified disability expenses are paid. I don't believe I mentioned this, but burial and funeral expenses are considered qualified disability expenses. So all qualified disability expenses have to be in the lifetime of the account owner, except obviously the burial and funeral. So once those are paid, the account, if there happens to be a Medicaid recapture on it, that would be paid out. And again, that's only in those certain federal instances. Otherwise, it will go to the estate of the individual. So if they have under $50,000 of assets total in the state of Iowa, we have an affidavit of small estate to distribute it. If they have more, then they would need to open the estate. One thing I didn't mention, to go back, if they do have a sibling that would qualify for an ABLE account, you can put them on there as a successor account owner. So then they could get the funds in that instant.
What if they have a niece that's on disability?
It does have to be a sibling. The law was written pretty strict on that one.
Okay.
So otherwise, if Medicaid doesn't recoup, it just goes to the state.
Yep, it just goes to so it's the exact same as if I were to pass away right now. If I didn't have a will in place, or even if I did, if right now my bank accounts would go to my estate. The same Medicaid recapture, actually I'd have more that could be recaptured, but it would go to, yep, my estate, the same rules as Iowa law, or whichever law the individual lives.
Are you saying it goes to the estate or like the state of Iowa?
Good. Estate, ESTATE.
Okay, and so if they don't have a will, then it gets distributed as the intestacy statute directs?
Yep. And if it is not the same as all other accounts, after a set period of time, if it's never been claimed, it would go to the unclaimed property program, and we would do the same thing of distributing it to the estate. It's just held there for safekeeping, to ensure that typically the unclaimed property program has a better luck finding some of those individuals.
So what I'm hearing you say on that is that the person with the ABLE account needs a will.
I can't get tax or legal advice, but I would recommend everyone who has any financial assets to probably have something in place. But yeah, if they want to determine where it goes, yes, they would.
Okay, and then can I just make a comment, please? I have my son's 33-year-old. This is a gentleman who spoke earlier. When my husband retired, we did switch over from the SSI to the SSDI through his retirement plan. And I think your person that you want to go to is through Social Security on that for your questions. I'm giving advice on that. It is a hard, you can, it did at times become very challenging. But yeah, Social Security is where you want to switch that.
Thank you for that.
I had a question. I am on SSDI. Can I open an IAble account, and then if I go back to working full time, and not on SSDI any longer, can I still use the money that was saved in the account?
So that is a multi-part question. So if you go off SSDI, but perhaps you have the doctor certifying that you still have a similar disability, you could, like a similar severe disability, you could have the account still with that. Or if that or the SSA doesn't, you have until the end of the calendar year for it to be a qualified disability expense. And then if you're no longer eligible for the account, the following year, it wouldn't be a qualified expense. So it would just means that you would then have you would have the tax consequences of a non-qualified withdrawal if there were still funds left.
Okay.
But again, you have till the end of the calendar year, so you can use the funds for the expense that year. That was a good one. I haven't been asked that one on a webinar yet. Any other questions? I'm going to take down the PowerPoint. Oh, I might have hit the wrong one. Sorry. I have lots of windows open. All right, Brooke. Did we get all the chat questions answered, Brooke?
There is one more. I don't know if anybody's typing to it. I think it's a second part of a question that was answered, but I'll read it and then we can see what you think about it. But so if the account has 120K in it and the person has Medicaid, not through SSI, but just based on income or poverty level, none of the 120K are considered assets according to Medicaid.
That is correct. Yep. So a scenario that we see happening sometimes now, we are guessing, we don't know, once that age changes to 46, is individuals might be saving in these accounts for retirement. So they'll be saving up above that 100,000 if they're not receiving SSI. So yep, anything up for Medicaid, it is all funds in the account are disregarded as a resource if they're in an IAble account.
And then I think somebody asked for, oh, we had, yeah, I have to put the chat information about I might just share this with everybody in the chat. I don't think we have any other open questions. I saw that Leanne came off mute. I don't know, Leanne Backus, if you had a question you wanted to.
I was wondering about if you give $5,800, how do you show that for your taxes? If I put it in open an IAble account and make that contribution for my grandson.
Yeah. So what I tell people, you just need to keep confirmation that you either did a check to the IAble account, or if you use the UGIF platform, you would get a confirmation then and just print that in, keep it with your records. You don't have to send that in. It's just in the case if you got audited.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. These were great questions. The Q&A part's always my favorite part because it's how we can learn what I'm missing to put in next time.
We have one more open question I'll ask. I noticed the form on the IAble website has the authorized user and POA has the same form, but those are not the same thing, correct?
So the POA is only used in the instance when that authorized individual has the capacity to sign it. And so no, they're not. They are, so an authorized individual is a POA, but all authorized individuals are not POAs, if that makes sense. They could be somewhere else in that line. So that form that is being referenced is used if someone wants to give someone else, the account owner wants to give someone else that ability to manage the account on their behalf. And again, that's kept for your records. We don't need it. It would just be in the future if someone asked, or if there was ever a dispute, then we could ask for that.
Can I ask a question? Karen here again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my sister is not competent. She's in a group home. The payee is the one who has the access to the funds. And I was told that I cannot have access to help manage anything. It's either or. Is that correct?
So for IAble, I'm going to go back to that hierarchy list, which you can find on our website.
Right.
But sibling is higher
Right.
than payee. So the sibling, you can't manage it together because they have to be at the same level. But a sibling could come in and say that I want to manage the account, and then we would potentially, we call those disputes. That might be an instance we do ask for paperwork. But then yes, for IAble, I'm being very specific. This is just for IAble's purposes. The siblings
Yes.
have the right over the payee to manage the account.
Right. But is it going to make it harder on the payee, the entity, the payee to do anything if I took it over?
I can't answer that for sure. I will say some of the obstacles I've seen why the payee wants to is because on the payee side of having to manage the funds, they have some rules there. So I can't say for this instance if that's what it is. That might be. I can only just speak for what we allow with IAble. I'm unfortunately not an expert on the rep payees.
And just to make sure we were not able to do a checking account because it was an entity, the payee, the entity, the group home. But if I had done it, it could have been a checking account. But
There
we
are
had
some
to.
restrictions on the entities. It's with having the debit card.
So, okay, wait, I missed something there. So because I'm not the one and the entity is, we could only pick one of the investment situations. We couldn't have a checking card or checking account.
So I would recommend that the entity reaches back out to IAble or IAble team because we've had some changes to it. Initially, if we didn't have a way to have all the signatories, you couldn't. But now we do have the signatories. We have a form. We've evolved. We're growing and learning as we see how people use these accounts. So it might be worth calling our plan and setting up that conversation again.
Oh, okay, because I've been grilling your girls day in and day out for a couple of months.
Yes, no, we can definitely, and if it's helpful, like I said, to have those one-on-one conversations, reach out. We can set that up. We've met with a lot of entities in the past and have done something similar like that one-on-one for their scenarios too.
Okay, so I won't bog you down. We'll just try to figure more out. So who do I contact? You said a one-on-one. Who is it that I contact? Not just the regular number that I keep getting a different person each time?
Yeah, if you want to put if you're comfortable, if you want to either private message or put your email in the chat, I can have Christy or Victoria grab that and we can reach out to you.
I'll just go ahead and put it in the chat. Thanks.
Okay, yep. So one of them will grab that and we can start that connection going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a quick question about the new rules.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've been asked a new rule that goes into effect on January 1st next year. But this power of attorney, my brother's gonna help me set it up. And my brother has my power of attorney. Is that gonna be an issue?
So there are different types of, I'm gonna also, you've heard me say a lot, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a power of attorney expert, but if your brother's power of attorney says he can manage the ABLE account, he can help set it up, but you could also manage it together. If you want to, if you have that financial capacity, you can open it with him and you both can manage it. Or if you want, you can just open it yourself.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. Thank you.
Yep. And there's, just to be clear, there's a lot of different power of attorney forms out there. Some of them are very specific for, like, we have one that's just IAble power of attorney. There's some that are medical. It's a whole world that I can't even begin to discuss because I'm not an attorney. I don't know how they keep it straight.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I have one more
I
open question. Oops,
I have one more question. I have a daughter who is currently 8. She doesn't have an IAble account, but if I opened one and saved the funds, could I use those funds to pay when I have to apply for guardianship and conservatorship?
Again, I can't guarantee that, or I can't answer what a qualified disability expense, but if it's anything that's helping improve her quality of life, it would be a qualified disability expense.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We have one more open question but I'm not sure exactly, because I think this has been in the open for a little while, so I'm not sure what form, but they're asking what form is, so that form is not needed to be submitted to IAble in order for someone to manage the count.
The POA form is not, I'm guessing it's the POA form. No,
Yeah.
the POA form is not. So when you are managing the account or getting your name on that account, you will sign that you are certifying under penalty of perjury that you fall into wherever that list is. And that is the only time we would ever use that form is if there was a dispute. But you do need to just have it on record in case if someone was ever to ask. But no, we do not send it to the plan. We really wanted to, we used to require all these documents to be sent in. I'm sure Brooke can remember those days. It was really a barrier to opening the accounts. And we really want them to be available to individuals who need them. So we tried to break down those barriers when we could. Any other questions?
Alicia, we did have some poll questions. Did you want to put some of those up now while we're waiting for people to see if they have any more questions?
Yes, I did realize I forgot those. I'm sorry. That was on me. Let's do the last one if we can.
The last poll question, Emily?
This just helps to let us kind of understand going forward.
And while people are doing that, we can still take, we still have time for a few more questions.
Absolutely.
A quick question. I sent my email a couple of times and then it disappeared. Did you clear that off right away so it wasn't public?
Yes, I grabbed it.
Oh, thank you so much. I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
Could you again please tell me where I would go to see if my son's disability would qualify him for an IAble account?
Yes, I'm gonna phone a friend and I have Christine and Victoria working behind the scenes. Can you drop either our page where we have the link to the SSA's compassionate allowances list in the chat or else the direct link to that? So it should be there in the chat. I don't know if you've given a Zoom webinar, my screens get thrown off, so I can't ever figure out how to use them to do it myself.
Another quick question, which you'll probably tell me you can't, but is there like somewhere where we can find a good list of lawyers? I've been talking to a few in Iowa and I haven't been really happy. And I need someone that specializes in all this stuff.
Brooke, do you have any resources?
Oops, sorry, I muted myself. Have you reached out to legal aid? They have some folks that specialize in this type of information.
Where do you go for that?
I can Google their name and put that in the chat for you.
Oh, that would be fabulous, because living in Texas and having to do this is really difficult.
Can I also make another suggestion? There are a number of estate planning councils throughout Iowa for, like, especially in the various metropolitan areas I would Google those estate planning councils because they very typically have lists of attorneys that would be qualified to handle this sort of thing.
Awesome.
And we also Ask Resource Centers also has a list of lawyers.
Thank you.
What was that one again?
Ask Resource Centers.
Ask Resource Center.
Yeah, I thought she said she put it in the chat, but there it is.
Okay, I'll go back to the chat. Thanks.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice? Somebody did ask this, but we will be sending out the recording to everybody that participated today or who registered today. So you will have that information, and it will also be on both of our websites. All right.
That would be great. And I am so thankful to my money follows the people person who gave me this information. This has been a godsend today. Thank you, ladies.
Of course, I'm glad that we got the word out. This is the whole reason we do them.
Yep. We're hoping that more people on today will open an account.
And it helps that this is all recorded so I can go to my payee and go, hey, this is the conversation. Listen to me. Thank you. I'm sorry. I've just had a really rough time of it. So I appreciate you listening to me kind of go off a bit. Thanks.
Of course, we don't want people to have a rough time. We know it happens more than we would like, but if we can help, we try to where we can.
Question? Oh, Chad says thanks. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Thank you.